Hello, and welcome back to the Double Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your host Ryan. Today I'm joined by my lovely cohort of co-hosts, Surprised Wyatt,
Hi.
Sneaky Alex,
Hello there.
and it's just Brett.
It's just me. It's just me.
Just Brett as is enough. We don't need to. We need to tack any adjectives on.
Be
it.
glad that it's just me. Okay.
One day it
Which
won't
couldn't-
be, and then you're going to be in for a real stunner.
Twitch can't
Yeah.
handle anything more than just Brett.
Mhm.
We don't have the technology.
Welcome to the Just
Well,
Brett Hour.
We'd get banned if there were any other version of me.
Well,
We'd get
speaking of
deplatformed.
getting banned, I don't have a good segue for getting banned. I don't think anyone got banned. Although we can talk about news that could get someone blacklisted in an industry, which is Helena Taylor and Bayonetta 3.
Mhm.
Mm.
The
Has
kerfuffle continues.
The kerfuffle continues, and we still don't fully know what's going on. But I
developing.
think largely people were siding with Helena Taylor as of last week. You know, largely on her side of this, because no one else had spoken out to be like, oh, well, this is blatantly untrue.
Yeah.
Now, Jason Schreier did some digging, and has his sources have told him that she was offered at least $15,000, if not more, because the way the contract was working was $4,000 per recording session for multiple recording sessions,
Mhm.
which is a lot more standard than what we were led to believe.
Yes.
It's still
What we
not
were told
a
was like
tremendous amount, but-
4,000 just flat. Right?
Yeah, and then
I
Helena
believe
Taylor went on a
total.
Twitter rant and posted a bunch about Bayonetta being a $450 million franchise. That is a grossly not untrue, but also not really true statement of how Platinum's finances work and whether or not they can afford to pay a voice actress six figures.
I
So
believe that's what they call in the industry an oopsie daisy.
that's an oopsie whoopsie and a rough situation all
Oh.
around.
It's what we call bad math.
Bad math.
Mhm.
There is the possibility that this is legitimately bad math, because one of the theories about how this happened that has been tossed around is that there was a translation error in the offer that was
Oh.
sent to her, and she just did not receive the information that it was separate pay for each session rather than a
That could be
gross
the case.
sum.
But
Which totally could be the case, and in that case, like, no fault to her for that mix-up. That it's just an unfortunate mix-up, but there was no malice.
You could. I mean, you could say if she was sent that there was a translation error, she could have been like, "So, are you sure it's just 4,000, or is this some sort of translation?"
Well, because we
error
already
before,
know
like-
she did do a back and forth with Kamiya, who's one of the
Mhm.
game directors at Platinum, and that's what got the number upped to 4,000 in the first place. I could still see there being a translation error of them not understanding that her issue was with the total pay that she had assumed would be 4,000 and not the like number of sessions and the separate pay for each one. But of course, we don't have details on this. Nobody ever signed a contract, so we don't fully know. The bad look here is that Helena Taylor went on Twitter and posted a bunch of videos telling people to boycott Bayonetta 3
Yeah.
and saying Jennifer Hale is
Ooh.
never going to be the voice of Bayonetta, which is just kind of rude.
Yeah.
I mean, not a great look to have, but man, it's been a week for Helena
It
Taylor and
has.
Platinum Games.
Because like as a partial recap, it's not like Platinum looked very good last week either. They kind of just handled it terribly by blocking everyone and not saying anything until like a couple days
Platinum
later.
always does, though, isn't it? That's what the one
That's what
director.
Kamiya does, but there was no
Yeah,
statement
But
officially.
it's not. Yeah.
And then
I think
Jennifer Hale made a statement that almost, I would say, made things worse, even though it was probably well intentioned.
Most people
just-
talking makes things worse.
Well, because she made a statement that was like, "Hey, I'm under NDA. My experience has been totally fine." That was the extent of her statement, and she was like, "There's probably stuff behind the scenes you don't know about." That was the extent of it. It was like, "I'm under NDA. I can't talk about this."
which for someone in her position, I think is about as much as you could reasonably.
And you also
ask.
you
Yeah.
can't. So like, you signed an
Yeah.
NDA. You cannot talk about it, or else you will have legal
Yeah.
action against you, which is not a good place to be for most things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
weird
the most-
situation.
I think the most diplomatic way to put it is that both parties here could have acted much better and could have handled this situation much better.
Yeah.
Without really taking a side, because again, I think both kind of fumbled the ball.
It's
The
hard to tell at
Platinum
this
released
point,
a statement
too.
as of 2 days ago where the gist of it is here. We give our full support to Jennifer Hale as the new Bayonetta and align with everything in her statement. So
Okay, yeah.
The most important part to me, at least that I got out of Jennifer Hale's statement, is that she mentioned something along the lines of, which you should take into account anytime something like this happens, is that yes, okay, you might not like the decision, whatever, that the original voice actress is not there. There are still hundreds of other people that put their heart and soul into making this game, and by boycotting it,
You're hurting them.
you are not funding them to continue their passion and to
Yeah.
feed their families, and that's how this often goes, where people see like, oh,
especially if you're
But-
already excited for the game, like, is this really the
Yeah.
straw that
it's weird. But it's like anytime like cancel culture happens, and I was like, oh, this guy came out to be a horrible person, but the game he's on is being made by like an 800 person like team with like you count
Yeah.
all like the side teams on it. It's like, okay, like that's be more mature. Okay, this one person might be bad. Again, not accusing anyone in this situation of doing anything bad, because there's literally too much unknown here. But just I'm talking about in the past and in the future, when this has happened and will happen again. Just do what Twitter can't do, and be mature, and consider that there are hundreds of other people working on these projects that care about them more than most people on Twitter did, who probably just heard about it for the first time because of the controversy and are now projecting their importance on it.
yeah,
I-
that is a very good point.
And it's also and it's also important to know that there, like, not only are there a ton of other people working on this game, there are also people that have nothing to do with this situation and they're just doing their job, right?
Yeah.
They are completely out of the
Mhm.
way of all this. They're just trying to make a living making a video game that you guys have been asking for a very long time.
Yeah.
So just
I-
let them do their job, right? And when the game comes out, and if you're still excited for it, it's okay to be excited and to still purchase this game to support this studio. That's
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
okay.
And I was going to be saying, as a joke, I want to make this very clear. As a joke, it's like,
Oh no.
if you have a problem with that one person, you can still buy the game. Just go call them a slur on Twitter.
Oh,
Don't
God.
do
I mean,
that.
that's clearly
Don't
been a lot
do-
of people's reaction to the situation.
Don't do that.
And that's
Yep.
the problem.
Mhm.
Not an uncommon reaction in today's world. This has actually given me a very good segue to something I wasn't planning to talk about this time, but I think there is no better time to mention it after what we just talked about. Hogwarts Legacy. I'm going to say the Hogwarts
Oh.
Legacy word because I think everything we just said also applies to Hogwarts Legacy.
agree.
Because some outlets are probably going to boycott the game because of J.K. Rowling. Even though she has likely had very little to do with the game, she will get money from it. She's going to be paid royalties. She'll be getting revenue. If that's
But
a decision
everyone else
you
who
want to
worked on the
make,
game,
that you care more about not funding J.K. Rowling than helping the dev team, especially depending if you're excited about this game. I think for most people, they'll either be soured on Harry Potter totally, and then they won't care. And like for that, totally stay away from the game. You're not going to enjoy it if you want to avoid the world that J.K. Rowling built. And I don't want to say anything about J.K. Rowling's Twitter politics. I don't want to give her a platform.
No.
that's
need to
someone
talk
you can
about
go
J.K.
call a
Rowling.
slur on Twitter.
Wait, all we
I-
can say here is that she's a person that exists.
I think
that
if you've
sometimes
watched
says
any
things on Twitter.
amount of this podcast, listen to any amount of it, you'll know all four of our opinions on J.K. Rowling very quickly.
We're all the same opinion.
I don't think we need to devote to calling people slurs on Twitter to get that across.
No.
No.
Still a joke.
That said,
Technically.
I still want to play Hogwarts Legacy, and I think that the dev team at WB likely has done a really good job. At least maybe not a really good job. We'll see when reviews come out. But they've done an intense amount of work. to
Yes,
get this
they
game
did.
out.
It's
It's been in
I'll-
development for years, is the important
It's-
thing. That's what we know.
You
it's
know what
it's
I
Warner
will-
Brothers. Fingers crossed for some type of nemesis system.
You know what I will say? I literally have not thought about this game like since the last time we talked about it on
Yeah.
our show.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, I'm just excited to play it because since being a small little child, I played so much of the Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets on the GameCube, where you could just wander around. And that I would spend so many hours doing nothing, like functionally nothing, but wandering around and looking at the cool things that I'd seen in the movies. But I don't want to do that. I really don't care if there's even a game here. I just want to walk around the castle.
I love casting spells. I don't care what universe it's in. I just want to admire VFX artists' works.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
a lot of work.
And watch someone get hit by them.
Yeah, that seems like a good time. All right, well, that's the Hogwarts Legacy tangent. Now let's talk about another controversial video game in Gotham Knights.
Oh, yay.
Because
Speaking of
I
Warner
have
Brothers.
a theory.
Oh boy.
Warner Brothers is the publisher, Avalanche is the developer, so for Hogwarts Legacy, whereas Gotham Knights is Warner Brothers in-house. I've been playing some Gotham Knights. I told another friend of mine that I would get it to play co-op with him if it hit above a 7 on release day, and it did just barely. Sit at a 71. Despite the 4s and 5s from IGN and GameSpot, which is almost unheard of.
That might as well be a 0. On their scale, that's a 0.
That's a don't play it. That's a never touch this thing.
Yeah.
I'm having a good time. That said, I am playing this on a computer that is more than capable of brute forcing the game, and I am still having issues. So the tech, not so good. There's definitely some weird stutters because it runs fine 90% of the time. You get on the bat cycle, you drive across a border, suddenly it drops to 30 frames for half a second, then back up to 60. You're like, what just happened?
And hey, listen, you also picked the platform that just happens to run it at 60 frames per second rather than 30, you know?
Yeah, no, don't get this on consoles. I don't know what you would be thinking. If you know what, if you have no other option and you really want to play as Red Hood or Nightwing or Batgirl or Robin and see a story with them as the heroes, go for it. You know, if you can accept the 30 FPS, which I would recommend not doing, because I have a suspicion the reason the combat feels okay to me is because of the 60 frames. I think this is super reaction heavy in terms of, like, you got to see the line to dodge something, and if you want to get that perfect dodge, you got to do it right at the last second, which means you really need to, like, have the reaction time here. And I have a feeling when the frame rate slows on this, you're going to get the weird input delay feelings. It feels like there's a few frames of buffer in between hitting something and happening, which at 60 is not a huge problem. At 30, I think would be a big problem. So
my only hope is that this doesn't say to developers that we can get away with releasing games that are only at 30 frames per second.
This should have been
console.
delayed a couple of months to get a performance mode in there, because this is just weird.
Do you think we'll see one like post-launch?
Oh, as long as they don't cancel support for this game, which I don't think they would do, because I still think it's sold very well. I think we will. I don't know when. Maybe 2-3 months, maybe.
We do know that we're getting a 4-player co-op mode at some.
Yeah, 4-player co-op mode's coming out next month. I've had the chance to do some like random player co-op with it. I haven't played with the person I'm intending to play it with yet because I only picked it up yesterday. But I did get to play with some randoms, and it's fun. The co-op in this game is legitimately very fun. It's cool to be in Gotham City, like the full Gotham City and not a section of it, and be able to just go do crime solving with a buddy. Or just a player that you've met, and you can do emotes with each other and run around. You get this cool combat experience where things are, you can do like duo moves and stuff. It's very cool. The co-op in this feels really good.
Yeah, you said there was co-op, and you said 4-person was coming later. Is it just 1-on-1, or is it up to 2?
So co-op right now is 2-player. The 4-player co-op mode we don't know a lot about. It's called Heroic Assault, which I assume is going to be like specific
something
missions.
Different, not just.
Yeah, I think this game feels like there are not enough enemies to handle 4 players in most regular situations, because it's really, I don't know if the balance changes when you have co-op players, because I wasn't paying attention to that when I was playing in co-op, but it has largely felt like this is a lower enemy number game where enemies are more specialized, rather than the Arkham of you're getting flooded with people and you have like a different combo to counter each one. And both of those are good systems, I think. There's no shade on them.
So I have a question. I remember I really like Arkham Knight. one thing I was a little disappointed by though was like, oh, we finally get to play a Batman Arkham game in Gotham City. This will be great. But very beginning of the game, they evacuate the entire city. Probably because you'd be driving around in your bat tank thing, and you'd probably just be running people over, and there's no way that they could figure that out. Understandably, is there like just NPC civilians? Walking
there are
around,
NPC civilians walking around. Not a lot of them. It is definitely less dense than something like Spider-Man, but they're there, and they will like comment on you if you walk by. They go, "Hey, you're like that guy who's bigger than Batman." If you're playing Red Hood, commenting on how like muscly he is. They'll have little quips for different characters walking by. Some people like jeer at you. Some people cheer for the heroes. Yeah, there's lots of interactivity like that. The thing I've really liked is the cops in this are. This is set post Jim Gordon has died. Everything is Jim Gordon died like in the past in this. He has been dead for a while, which sets up the whole Batgirl thing. So he's been dead for a long time. There's a new commissioner who is very anti-vigilante, which I'm sure is going to play into the story at some point. Because one of the first missions you do is you go into the Gotham PD and you go find some info, and you hear how a lot of the cops are like, who supported Batman are getting ousted and being replaced by people that are on payroll by someone else. So you're learning that, but then you can go out in the city and there are mission types that are random with the PD that'll be like getting attacked by one of the gangs, and if you go and save them, they'll then comment afterwards about how maybe they were wrong about everything and like tell you to get out before their backup shows up. And it's a cool situation, and there's a lot of lines for it, because I've hit that event a few times, and they've always had a different comment, which is cool. So I've had a good time with this, and the story is so far, I'm not super far into it. Playing as Red Hood is very fun, and I'm sure it'll be fun to replay, because all the dialogue has got to be completely different, because everyone is talking specifically to Red Hood. So it'd be fun to replay it with different dialogue. But I have a sneaking suspicion with this game. A little suspicion that this is a WB published game. WB has, to my understanding, the rights to the Nemesis system. I think there was a Nemesis system in the works for this game at some point. Because looking through how this treats enemies, you can scan them and they have little personal details occasionally. You've got a bunch of like investigation things that tell you things about who killed. I am like 70% certain they were coming up with some Nemesis system thing for these open world sections of the game, and it didn't happen. I think I understand why it didn't, because the way that this game has kind of shaken out is a little weird. But I think this is what's really given it the bad shake from reviews and whatnot, is that this is like a weird, maybe looter, maybe not, because you don't actually really loot things, but you have loot that looks like a mobile game in the UI. There's no microtransactions or anything. It's all in the game, but you've got crafting, and if you get loot, you can't actually equip it until you go back to your belfry at night, because you're meant to be out for a mission during the night, and then you go back later and re-equip things, and then you gotta like craft your gear back at the belfry. But then it's this weird loop of like, well, if I'm in a looter game, I want to use the cool new thing as soon as I get it. So
what is it? This is the second superhero game now where it's like there's just a loot game that just doesn't.
And it's got like elemental effects and elemental build up, and I just don't really get it.
Why do we keep putting loot systems in superhero games? Why?
It doesn't belong there.
I don't understand. As someone who like, I'm not immediately against loot systems, but I feel like I'm definitely starting to get burnt down.
And actually, I just
don't understand
for the suits, because you get cool looking suits, and that's the big key difference between Avengers and this, is when you get loot that is a suit and you craft it, it looks cool.
But see, like in terms of just getting, because like alternate costumes are a big thing for superhero games. Like you kind of they're almost required at this point. Spider-Man did it perfectly. You buy a suit, it's got a cool look.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I think this would be better suited with Spider-Man.
Better suited.
And like you buy a suit and it comes with like a different mod to it, like one of your like customizable like ultimate abilities essentially, right? And that's it. It's not any more complicated than that. And I really don't understand. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's a confusing design direction.
Keep happening?
I really think you're playing Nightwing. Don't tell me Nightwing's ability has elemental build-up. Tell me Nightwing's batons are electrified like a normal person.
Yeah.
No, they actually deal cold damage.
If you want to do
Oh.
different things, tell me Red Hood's guns can change elemental cartridges or
I mean,
something. Like,
are
you
you-
have words that could not be
Yeah.
elemental build-up
I mean,
and these
Ryan,
weird stat
are you-
things.
Are you trying to tell me that you've never ever wanted to play a video game where you play as Hulk and you can customize his spinal cord? Are you telling me you've never wanted to do that before?
There's nothing to that degree.
You
in
can
this, thankfully.
what?
You have your suit
Yes.
and you have your melee and ranged weapons. That's it.
That sounds
those
like
are
a
all
joke.
The loot things.
That sounded like a joke, but that's
It's
real. One of
disgusting.
like the like loot things for Hulk is a customizable like spine.
You collect other
Absolutely
people's vertebra,
Disgusting.
he's
Oh my
a
God.
predator. He collects the spines of his victims for trophies.
and he takes their spinal cords and he adds them to his own.
Give
And
Hulk
there's
your
been a big,
fluid.
like-
Rip.
There's a lot of commentary on the combat system in this game being bad. Well, I don't think it's bad. I think it's just fine. It feels a lot like a JRPG combat system in a way, but a lot more kinetic. It feels better in motion because you actually like respond to things a la the old Batman games with your dodges and your attacks and your heavies and your ranged button and all that. That feels good. Everyone's got like some special abilities they can use, which feels straight out of a Tales game. Bizarrely, they basically have Tales abilities where they like do all their JRPG attacks. But it looks cool. It feels good when you play it for the most part.
And I could never tell, and maybe you can confirm this for me now, but anytime I saw someone play that game in like pre-release material, and like I just saw the way that characters moved, it just looked awkward. It just looked stiff and weird, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why, but I was like, this just looks off.
I think
There's
their
something about it
animation
that doesn't look
transitions
right.
in combat are a little bit strange because you have to instantly react to things. So I think the reason it looks like that is this almost follows more of the like character action Bayonetta Devil May Cry combat flow of when you are doing a thing you can almost always cancel. Like you can instantly cancel basically anything into a dodge. Whereas in Arkham Knight and the other Batman games, there was animation like delay built into everything to give you time to do that in a way that wouldn't mess with the animations, which was really good with the slow and weighty hits of Batman. I don't think it would have worked for Nightwing or anyone but Red Hood, really, because Red Hood in this game has the kind of same slow punches, but anyone else doesn't. So I wonder if they could have figured out a way to do that, because the trick with Arkham is they obscured things behind the cloak. They would use the cloak to obscure the animation transitions happening, which is super clever, like incredibly good thing. I'm not saying this game is as good as any of the Gotham games or Arkham games, because I don't think it is. I think this is, if you're okay with playing a Dynasty Warriors tier superhero game, that is what you're getting here. You're getting the Dynasty Warriors of superhero games, and that's not an insult. That's what to expect. Expect that
Unless
you're going to
it's
get a fun romp in Gotham with your cool sidekick characters. And I think anyone who's wanted to play these characters and not Batman for a long time is going to be happy. Because, we've had a lot of Batman games. We've had a lot of good Batman games. I'm okay with not playing Batman for a game and playing the sidekicks that are always kind of sidelined.
It was never the concept of the game that turned me off, because I was very interested in that. It's just like everything else.
Oh yeah, it's
just
confusing.
like-
It's bizarre. Truly, the Dynasty Warriors comparison is because there's so many things in Warriors games where you just go like, why is this here? And then it'll get removed in the next game and then come back like 3 games later and you'll be like, what, now we're back to this? It happens all the time, and this feels like that kind of design. This is like a super weird, they took things from Avengers that maybe shouldn't have been taken from Avengers. They didn't take other things. It's bizarre. This feels like it was developed in a world in which Spider-Man did not exist. And this is like the progression of almost like the Marvel, whatever the team up Marvel games were that you used to have, Ultimate Marvel.
Oh, Marvel
I like
versus
to think-
Capcom?
Not Marvel vs. Capcom, no. Ultimate Alliance, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
right.
It's almost
like to
along
think-
that type of design where everyone has like a relatively simple set of skill trees and they have their cool abilities and the whole spectacle is you teaming up and doing things with your group. It's fun, but I think you gotta know what to expect when you go in and don't expect an Arkham game. Probably have a good time. If you do expect an Arkham game, go play an Arkham game because they're still very good.
And there's many.
Yeah, there's many.
Whole
Most of them are
franchise.
good.
You want to go play an Arkham game? Go
I
go
even
punch the Joker Hulk.
I mean, I even liked Arkham Origins, which a lot of people didn't, but I thought that was a like pretty good Batman game at the end of the day. But
It's the only one I haven't played. I've played all the others. But
it's fine.
not that one.
It's cool. It's neat.
All right. Well, other recent games news. We're all pouring one out for Miniclip. Has finally
so
shuttered
sad.
its
Yep.
doors.
It was bound to happen eventually.
Yeah, with the
except
lack
for-
of Flash,
Give it a nice
modern
salute.
browsers.
Except for I think what were the two games that's still supporting 8-Ball Pool and what
Doesn't
else is
matter.
there?
Agara.io.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, 8-Ball Pool. And I am absolutely sobbing and in tears, metaphorically and also off screen, at the loss of Gravity Guy. That was
Yeah.
mm,
Gravity
one
Guy
of
and
my
those old
favorites.
penguin sledding games. Those are the best ones.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a shame to see him go. I think the penguin sledding stuff has been ported to something else since then.
Probably.
All right. Well, other bit of news we had: Silent Hill. It's back.
Oh no!
no
Konami's
one
reviving it.
no one expected this at all. I don't think.
Just kinda popped
Konami actually making not one, not two, but like 4 games. Crazy.
And that are actually not pachinko machines this time.
Yes, confirmed. None of them are. Well, I guess they could be pachinko machines, but I don't think Annapurna would publish a pachinko game in good faith.
Yeah.
The only question now is if these will be as much fun as a pachinko machine or not.
Unless it's a pachinko machine
Well.
that ends up being a walking simulator.
God,
Yeah, you never
that's
know.
that's don't call Silent Hill a
Where,
walking
where you're
simulator,
literally
Alex.
just carrying you're carrying the pachinko machine around with you.
It's and instead of going to Silent Hill to possibly find, revive, or kill your dead wife, you actually go clutching a pachinko machine like you're carrying your dead wife.
Cradling it in your arms.
And
I
then
just
But
need
yeah,
to find
speaking-
another little ball.
Speaking of dead wives, Silent Hill 2 is being remade by Bloober Team, which is okay for some people and an absolute nightmare for other people.
We'll
because
find out.
which
We'll figure out how they handle it, but there were
which camp do you
What?
fall in, Brett? I'm curious.
I don't care. And I'll explain that in a second when I go on my personal diatribe. But to get the news out, I guess Bloober Team has like kind of a mixed history where they have a lot of games that have a lot of good
Oh.
parts. But then
Yeah.
when you start to
'Cause
think
we all
about
played
some
the medium.
things,
Like we've
Yes.
experienced some Bloober Team jank firsthand.
yeah. And the medium is a very good looking game. You could tell very much that they're inspired by Silent Hill the series. But there's some writing things in the latter parts of that game that appear as if they try to make a certain group of people look better than they should be in real life, having to do with abuse and children. So it's just a weird writing thing. I don't really think they knew what they were doing. I sure am glad that Silent Hill 2 doesn't handle any serious subject matter at all for them to accidentally mess up.
Well, it's all fun and games. It's a romp in the park. It's a romp in the very foggy park.
Of course.
They are kind of a bizarre studio when it comes to horror because every game is like, this is a really cool sequence, and then there's other ones where it's like, what on earth were you thinking?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll see. I'll explain once we get done with the rest of these. I have a mixed amount of faith, but we also have well, I'll just go in the order of this random site. We got a weird one that I actually don't know if it was included here. No, it is. Silent Hill Ascension, which is being developed partially by Bad Robot, Wyatt, which is
What?
J.J. Abrams' company.
Wait, what?
Because it's an interactive experience apparently. And the trailer
FMV
for it,
Silent Hill.
maybe I don't know.
That'd be great.
The trailer for it kind of like implied that this was a kind of thing that like, okay, you can think of like Twitch plays Pokemon, where like I guess
Wow.
a bunch of people across the world can affect the story, and I guess maybe you can vote for different things because they showed like messages showing up being like, oh my god, is he gonna die, is he gonna die, what's the monster gonna do now, like as if they were popping up in like a text chat or something.
It's a very
Wait,
confusing
is
trailer.
Is this one of those
Yeah.
things where it's sort of like trying to be Quantum Break or
I
something
don't
like
know.
that in that
I
sense?
don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
Quantum
all we
Break
have on
didn't
this
have
is
any,
a
like,
minute. Although someone does
Yeah.
at everyone in the video in what looks like Discord.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
It's
so-
interesting.
because it's a Bad Robot production, do you think they're gonna pull the rug out from under us, last minute and be like, this is a Cloverfield project.
Cloverfield. if they do,
Behavior
I'm
is
gonna have
also
goosebumps
involved in
because
this. There's a number of studios involved in Ascension.
Yes.
It's not just it's Genvid,
What?
Bad Robot, Behavior, and DJ2. I don't know what DJ2
Never heard of that
is.
last one.
I don't know who that
But
is.
Behavior is games. Bad Robot is Bad Robot.
Yeah.
Bad Robot takes small sci-fi movies and turns them into
Cloverfield project.
movies.
Jokes.
Yeah, this is 100% looks like Discord notifications going through.
Yeah.
People saying, "Can we save her?" I don't know what this is, but I'm hyped to figure it out.
Exactly. This is interesting enough where I don't want to immediately just be like, "Oh, this looks stupid," because it could be like dumb, and no matter what happens, it'll definitely just be something that goes on for like a year or something, and then everyone else will just hear about it in like a YouTube video afterwards, like summing it all up because it's like
It'll be a
it's like an
fever
ARG
dream.
thing. But I like ARGs. It's a little forced because we know it's an ARG instead of just figuring it out. And
Yeah, the Discord notifications in the video is really a strong choice, especially the at everyone. It's like, all right, that's what we're going with here.
If it's essentially just a comment section, that's gonna turn to shit so quickly.
There's gonna be so many Among Us like picture emoji memes.
You know what? Discord did just launch the activity thing. What if this is a Discord?
I was gonna
activity?
say. I wonder if maybe this is some kind of plugin that you can do. You can make like a Discord server and just play this with like your friends or something.
That'd be cool.
I don't know.
I
I
like
was
that
say,
idea.
if you're in a big server, which I assume an official Silent Hill server would be, don't at everyone.
No, yeah, but that's
a jerk move.
I feel like that might be a thing where it's like, okay, this.
But Alex, we need to save her.
With like it for spoken level dialogue, but typed out instead of spoken out.
Wait, so
God.
you mean to tell me we have to save her?
For typing.
God.
This is some kind of hill that's silent.
It's so quiet here.
Almost silent.
The altitude is higher than the area around it, but it's not quite as steep as a mountain. I guess I should have started this because I think I have no faith in this being good. They're making another movie, and if you know anything about the Silent Hill movies, they're not very good, and it's the same guy. So
no! Why?
Yeah.
Why?
You know what? We got the games.
Silent.
The movie
Exactly.
can be bad if it wants to be.
That's the thing. Silent Hill is one of those franchises where it's like you literally are not going to be able to make a good movie with it. It's just
You
not.
can make a good movie inspired by it, but you can't.
Oh, totally.
Just take Silent Hill and make it a movie.
No.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah, if you want a good Silent Hill movie, just go watch something by like David Lynch. And
I do wonder what ending they would consider canonical for the movie.
I don't know, because there's argument even between the dev teams on which one for Silent Hill 2 was the canonical one. After that we have Silent Hill Townfall, not Downfall, Townfall, which is being published by Annapurna, which I mentioned earlier, and developed by No Code, who did Observation, which is that really cool cyberpunk investigation game featuring
really cool game.
Rucker Hauer was in it. Which is crazy that he had a video game role, but
my first thought from the title was immediately a Silent Hill city builder.
That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious.
It could be something weird.
Yeah.
Your citizens here aren't experiencing enough mental distress. Time to send in their fears incarnate.
Yeah. A lot of variety here in terms of like the background of all these developers, which I like. They're not just making 5 horror games that all feel similar to each other. It's not an Assassin's Creed situation where you've got or in a Call of Duty situation where we've got 3 studios all working on very similar projects.
No, these all seem very different.
And that's good.
Yeah. And I'm glad you pointed that out, because that's whatever, like, people, as you would expect, immediately want to jump on, like, oh, this isn't going to be as good as the old ones. And they all just start foaming at the
They're
mouth.
going for something
rolling on the
It's not
floor.
going to be the old
This
ones.
is what we
This
call a
is
shotgun approach.
Exactly. They are Contra spread shotting
Throwing-
shit all over the wall, and whatever sticks is going to be
See
what sticks.
What sticks.
I was
That's
going
going to be what's
something more
remembered.
I was going to say it's something more like a tasting platter, but I like that.
Yeah,
that's a
this
much
is
more
a
violent
shotgun.
Well, it is.
analogy.
It is kind of an ingenious way to reboot a
It is.
franchise that's been dead for a really long time. It's like, okay, we haven't had a Silent Hill game in how long? We haven't had a good
Let's figure
Silent
out
Hill
what
game in
works.
God knows how long. Let's throw a bunch of stuff at the wall instead of going, putting all of our chips into one game that could do well or could not do well. Let's just spray and pray and like see what works. It's
Which I am very
interesting.
happy about.
Yep.
After that, we have the last thing we haven't mentioned yet is Silent Hill F, which is I tied with the interactive experience with the most interesting thing for me, at least, because Silent Hill F is being written by, I do not remember his name.
Yukishio 7.
Yes, he is a writer and maker of like some classic old internet visual novels that have since become like
Massive
crazy
franchises.
famous. Like Higurashi or whatever is one of them.
I think he did. Did he do Umineko as well? Yeah, he did.
Probably. Which there's like anime series and other games based off of them now. They're like huge lineages.
Wow.
They've inspired.
He also did Higurashi no Naku ni Koru ni Gaiden Nekogoroshi Ken.
Of course.
Don't know what that is.
So now,
Nice,
of course,
I think.
memes have been exploding of like old internet DeviantArt art style anime girls from those visual novels talking to Pyramid Head and going like, "Hey, what's up?" and stuff like that. It's so funny. But
And they are
I don't know, this is kinda
psychological
interesting.
horror visual novels.
Yeah.
Just to make it clear here, they're not like romance. This is not a romance video. This is people get murdered.
Yes,
Many
Gotcha,
times.
it's Homestuck. Okay.
And it's doubly interesting because this Silent Hill game takes place in 1960s Japan and has a totally different aesthetic than all the other ones. And this is why I'm most interested in this one, and this will kind of tie in to my previous mentioning of I don't really care what Bloober does with Silent Hill 2 Remake. I have done a lot of research and rabbit holing on the franchise after playing 2 and 3 because they're just really interesting games, and I want to know how the hell people think of this stuff because, I mean, they're pretty poignant and people remember them very well. Something crazy must have happened to create it, and it turns out that, yes, depending on like when each game came out, the people working on them were inspired by whatever the zeitgeist was in Japan at that time. They're games that take place in America and, are made for their American voice actors originally. That's what the mocap is done with. So they like hire people in Japan that speak English and everything. Very, very, very focused on capturing a Western audience. But all of the spirituality and mythology and storytelling and everything behind it is super, super, super culturally Japanese. And that's why they're still so unique, is because, yes, they're inspired by David Lynch, and yes, they're inspired by the Nine Inch Nails aesthetic. Yes, they're inspired by like themes of bondage and BDSM or whatever in the monster design and stuff. But there's a whole lot of alchemy and weird like Jewish Kabbalah stuff, and just a whole ton of things that were just really popular in Japan because of like some books that were going around at the time. And that's why when Konami went, well, America loves these games, why don't we give them to some American dev teams? They totally missed the mark because we don't have any of that. We're pretty boring when it comes to like
It's not even that we're
cultural.
boring. People are just too afraid to do anything, so they don't.
Yeah. It comes across that we
It's
have
like a
nothing
fear
like
of having culture.
Exactly, because we're such a melting pot, I guess, that like any individual things that someone might find cool to expound upon, I guess, are either like I don't know, there might be some kind of might be seen as like racist or something, or it might just be I
Cultural
don't understand that
appropriation.
enough. Yeah, something like that. Which I mean, whatever. I don't care. Uh, so those
Put diversity
games
in your
that we
video
made,
games. That's
yes,
what
please
it
put
boils down
diversity in your
to.
video
So make
games
sure
because
not to have a diversity quota
yes,
and
just
check
have actual
boxes.
diversity. Um, which is yeah, why the Western made Silent Hill games are just very bleh because there's no oomph, there's no spice. Uh, you know, part of why all those original games are so good are because uh all that stuff went into it, but also because which is how we're looping back to the Silent Hill F thing, the aesthetics are inspired by the main character's psyche. That's like the Silent Hill thing that everybody knows is that you go to Silent Hill, you experience things from your own trauma that make you go, wow, that sure was scary. Uh, and you know, we see Pyramid Head in like two or three other games and in other games that do not have James Sunderland in it. And Masahiro Ito, Mr. Pyramid Head designer man, is just like, yeah, this sucks because he was just for James, and he literally represents James's inner struggle. And any other time that he's used, it's just like, okay, well, this is a cop out to give the people what they want. Big triangle head man. Uh, Having it be in a completely different setting where everything is normal. There's no rust. The rust and like the grime that you'd expect from Silent Hill is completely replaced with like crazy amounts of flowers and fungus and like red string tying everything together. It's super unique looking for Silent Hill F. And that's how you go about doing a different one because this shows that this character has nothing to do with anyone else in the previous games. As you would expect, every person's psyche is completely different than the person standing next to them most of the time. So of course, their other world is going to look totally different. And yes, all that mushed together is why I'm very excited about Silent Hill F. Um, in terms of the Bloober Team stuff, and in terms of this whole dang thing, as a fan of Silent Hill who likes to believe that he has the mental age above a 10-year-old, I am doing the mature thing and realizing that yes, it definitely would have been way cooler if they, along with this stuff, ported the old games so you could play the classic version of 2. But the amount of ways that you can, say screw Konami and just get it for not $800 off of eBay are many.
Mhm.
And no matter what happens in this new Silent Hill 2 version, will the original be better? Probably. There are a lot of things like the dog ending where it's revealed that everything's controlled by a Shiba, that it is named as like a letter mix up of the main character's wife's name, which is funny and really mean to him, which makes it even funnier. That I can imagine, that's a lot of character, that's a lot of extra effort for a joke. That I could see things like that not being in the new one. Because everything's got to look super pretty, everything's got to look super nice, it's got to be different from the original, and all that means it's going to take a lot of time to make the new stuff, and you're not going to have a lot of time for the extra stuff. Uh, People have been making pictures saying that the new James looks like a soy boy Wojak, and he kind of does, and it's kind of funny because there's like just all the faces that he makes in the trailer, just like I'm so sad, and it does come across like that a little bit. But he's such a screwed up individual that I am okay with it. This is fine. They're going a different direction, and also like the
At least it
original
feels
just
like
has
they
so
still
much.
have a direction. That's, I think, a lot of people's
Yes,
biggest concern with translating Silent Hill 2. Is so much of that game comes from the time and from the technological limitations
exactly.
of the console,
Mhm.
and I'm just glad there's fog everywhere.
Yes, there's fog everywhere, and as long as they don't shoot it like a goddamn action movie, and they shoot it like a dumb, made on under $1,000 art house film, like it
Which I
should
think
be in
Bloober Team
Silent
can
Hill.
do. I think Bloober
Yes, they
Team can be
absolutely
trusted
can.
to get that
I
right.
At the very least, if we're going off of their previous track record, you're gonna at least get some really good moments.
I
It may
think the
not
concern
be
people have
entirely
is,
consistent, but
are they going to change any of the actual narrative? I hope not.
They better not.
I'd be very concerned if we get different endings or something that Bloober Team has dreamed up, and they're. I would guess if they do them, they're going to be completely.
Botched would be a word. Like that's the thing. I'm like slightly torn
go
where
out
it's
with a
like, oh, they
whisper.
better not do this. But then if they do, I don't care because you can play the older one
Yeah.
without too much difficulty.
Like Silent Hill
and
2 has
have
held
proper
up better than
experience.
almost every other horror game from that era, like
Yeah.
including the Resident Evil games. I think Silent Hill 2 holds up far better.
Extremely well.
Yeah, go play it if you haven't. It's a good game.
You very much should.
Or wait to play the remake to get your first Bloober experience.
And maybe your last.
Hey, maybe you'll get hooked and go play all their backlog. Get bloobed, All right.
It'll be positively
bloobed.
bloobin'. Get
God.
bloobed. Goo exclamation point.
Oh yeah.
But that's
All
the
right.
Silent Hill.
Well, that's the games news this week. We don't have a lot of other crazy stuff going on, thankfully. That's the big thing was the Silent Hill just getting dropped. Also, Konami did leak their own presentation like an hour beforehand because they couldn't figure out how to do a YouTube premiere correctly and put the details of everything that would be in the presentation in the description
My God.
before it went live.
funny. That's so funny.
It's so funny.
Listen-
And then they just couldn't figure out the premiere properly, so they just released the video fully.
When you haven't had to present a game
I was just
in
about to
that
say
long,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
kind of rusty. You kind of don't know what everyone else
Listen,
knows
we're
how to
not-
do because they've made a video game.
Listen, we're not presenting a pachinko machine. We are completely out of our depth here.
Wait, it's not a pachinko machine. We can't do NFTs anymore. What do we
Oh
have?
no.
A game.
God.
That's right.
If anyone says the words
Okay.
block and chain right next to each other during this presentation, people are going to lose their minds.
All right. Well, we're through the wind up period of the episode, and we're into the actual episode now. It's time to talk about games we've been playing, Halloween related, not Halloween related. It's October. We're going through the fun times. Our Halloween episode is next week, where we're talking about Game Pass games episodes. Game Pass Game Club thing, where we talk about Game Pass games.
The thing we do.
We're playing Game
on a
Pass games that are
monthly basis.
loosely Halloween themed.
Vaguely.
Partly,
Very
Game Pass has a
somewhat.
lot of Halloween-y games. There's a surprising lack of horror classics up there.
Horror, yes, but the aesthetic of Halloween, absolutely.
Oh yeah,
I
if
mean,
you're willing to
that-
stretch the aesthetic of Halloween a little bit, you can get some good stuff. But
I
you
mean,
gotta
listen,
stretch it.
that aliens game was very scary. It's scary. It was
it
so
certainly
scary. It was so scary that Alex couldn't keep playing. He got too
It
spooked.
certainly spooked me.
By spooked,
Spooked
we
all
mean
the blood
motion
out of your
sickness.
nose.
Yeah.
Because
It
the UI
drained
is
blood out of my head.
constantly moving when you move your
Whoa.
mouse.
We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about that next week. All right.
There will be a
well,
reckoning.
who wants to talk about a game? If no one else has it ready with some time to think,
I'll
I'll
go.
jump in. But go ahead,
I'll
Wyatt.
go. Yeah. So there's this little known franchise. You may not have heard of it. It's not too big. Really hasn't really gone outside of the States that much. But I've been playing it recently. It's called Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
I'm
Little
going to
known
remind
title.
you.
Little known title.
Specifically, the campaign as well.
Specifically, yes, the campaign, because the multiplayer is not available yet. I was able to get myself a copy of this game before release, which means I can play the campaign early, leading up to the multiplayer. And
by before release, we just mean anyone who gets the game can play it a week early for the campaign. No special thing has to be done. Just if you get the game, you can play the campaign a week early. That's the new pre-order incentive.
And I've said this a million times. I think Modern Warfare 2019 is like my favorite COD. It's one of my favorite. It's my favorite COD campaign. It's one of my favorite multiplayer games. So Modern Warfare 2 has a lot to live up to, at least for me personally. And I thought the campaign was good. Not great because I think it's missing some of the things that made 2019's campaign so like special in the context of a COD campaign. Notably, I think the two things it's missing is a good story, because I thought that like while it wasn't anything special, I thought 2019 had a very good campaign, and it had like actual character development with like characters that like went through a change
And
and
developed.
developed. Yeah, it was a new it was a whole new frontier for Call of Duty, and I thought
Nope.
maybe they would.
Return to military man, Wyatt.
And I thought, I mean, they were about military people, to be clear, but they were military people that actually went through some kind of arc.
They were
They
people.
got their arms and legs blown off, Alex. All right.
But here
So
we
would
kind
their
of,
arms and legs have been going in an arc?
Yes, that's what I was getting at. They went through serious changes.
again, it's nothing, revolutionary, it's nothing special, but like good, solid story. And
For COD especially.
for COD especially. And I think the other thing that it did that was very unique for a COD campaign was that there was not a focus on gigantic Uncharted style set pieces. It was more smaller, tense moments, like walking through a hospital in the middle of a war zone, and there's a bunch of people on like beds, and you're like, okay, we're not allowed to shoot any of these patients, but one of them could just pop up randomly and start shooting us, and we're not sure which one. Like, it's really cool, like tense moments, like ones where it's all night vision, or like you have this little cone of vision with like your flashlight, and you're trying to find people that are like hiding under beds and stuff. It was really cool.
Well, speaking of that Uncharted style things, you did. I remember we were talking about this before. You did liken some of the things. Like there was a Uncharted 4
Yeah.
style car chase.
Yes, and
Um,
I'm getting to that. And so this doesn't really have much of a focus on that anymore. It doesn't get as crazy as like Modern Warfare 2 or 3 did, which just got so absurd, which was fun
They
in its
approached
own way.
proper sci-fi at certain points in those games.
It got stupid at points. I mean, I always go back to the World War II train sequence, because it is one of the
trains.
funniest things I've ever seen in a video game. Like, just excess for excess's
If you
sake.
haven't
It's
seen it
not,
before, go watch it. You're gonna have a great 5
It's
minutes.
so funny.
if you are ever having a bad day and you need a good laugh, it will make your day.
What is it
Anyway,
called?
I've shown you before. It's like called World War II. It's just called look
World
like
War II.
train sequence, whatever. But here they're not quite as insane, but I would also say that they're a lot less like scripted than the other ones are. So, like Alex mentioned earlier, there's a whole mission where there's this big convoy, and you're trying to save someone. You're trying to like save someone that's been captured, and there's a bunch of trucks and bikes moving around and stuff, and you can jump onto a truck, you can shoot all the guys in the back of the truck, and then hijack it, drive it around, and then once it like try to move your way up to the convoy a little bit, and then once starts getting hits and it's about to explode, you have to like climb to the top of it and jump onto another truck. But none of this is scripted. It's all up to you to like get out of the truck and time your jumps at the right moment and stuff like that. And it was a really fun sequence. It's also a complete ripoff of the Uncharted sequences from 2, 3, and 4. But, it was a well done ripoff.
I'd
And
be
it
okay
worked
with more
well.
games ripping those off.
It's
Yeah,
a fun sequence to
exactly.
do in almost any game you see it in.
And
It's
there's no
enjoyable.
grappling hook, so you're not like just tailing and like skidding through the mud like you are in 4. But hey, I mean, you can't have everything, right? There's also a mission, Alex, if you remember this. There's also a mission where you're on a giant ship that's moving from side to side, and
Oh, the
giant
like
cargo
trailer mission they
crates
showed way back
are
when.
moving, which
That's
is
fun.
another sequence right out of Uncharted 3, if you remember.
Yeah.
There's a whole sequence where the cargo, and it's a fun sequence because
I-
the cover's constantly moving around. You got to make sure you're staying within cover, but also not getting crushed by it at the same time, and everyone's kind of like disoriented. It's a fun sequence.
It's always fun seeing your environment be manipulated
Yeah.
around you.
The one that got me the most, I'm not going to say anything for story spoilers, but they straight up ripped off The Last of Us. I am not kidding. There is a mission where you're heavily wounded and you're like kind of crawling through a city, and you have to pick up things like bindings, scrap metal, tape, and all these other materials to craft things like shivs and smoke
Why I
bombs.
need to play this campaign now. I
and-
have to see the crafting.
And at first, I was like, "What are you doing? Why is this happening?" And then
Why
about
is there
halfway
crafting in a
through,
COD game?
I was like, "You know what? This is kind of rad. This is actually super cool." Because it was fairly well done for what it was. I think they kind of um, they kind of dropped it a little bit too quickly because there's a moment where you just pick up a shotgun with like 20 shots in it. You're like, okay.
Moment over.
Yeah, you kind of ruined it a little bit, but they do try and make up for that by having enemies with a lot of armor. So like even if you have like a pistol or a shotgun, it still takes a lot of shots to take them out. And it was a cool sequence. There's a whole system where it's not in every mission, but in a bunch of missions you have a backpack where you can have like different selectable like lethals and tacticals and stuff like that. There's a lot of cool set pieces in it. The only thing is, it starts off really slow, and you have to get through the first like half hour because there's a lot of really short missions where not a whole lot of things happen, and there's no like interesting mechanics or systems going on. It's like there's literally a mission where like, okay, there's this guy in Amsterdam that we have to get. So you like start on. Yes, Ryan, you all right?
You doing okay there,
yes.
Wyatt? You doing
Huh?
okay?
Me?
How you feel?
You sure you're not glitching
Yeah.
out a little bit?
There
Oh.
we go.
You're
Okay.
back.
No,
What?
Woo.
no one tell him what happened. No one
All
tell him what happened. No one say anything. Just continue. It's fine.
What happened?
Just keep
Just
going.
continue. It's fine.
Don't worry
Where
about
did
it.
you?
Go
Where
check the
did I
VOD
leave?
later.
Where did I leave off? Did I like? Are we good?
Lots of little missions having to go through the first 30
Yeah,
minutes
lots
or so.
lots of little missions with like weird pacing. Like there's literally a mission where it's like, okay, this guy's in Amsterdam, we got to go capture him. You like spawn in, you walk for a little bit with some dialogue, you pick up the guy, and you shoot a couple people, and then you get in the car and drive away. The whole thing is like less than 10 minutes, and I was like, does this really need to be a level? This is really weird. Like a lot of weird short missions like that in the very beginning, but the pacing does get a lot better. The missions get a lot better as you go along, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was really neat. I just wish it had, a better story, more character development, and that sort of thing. But just from like playing it and just from a gameplay perspective, I actually kind of had a lot of fun with it. So
That's
it
all
was
you
a
need
good
from a
time.
COD game, I think.
Yeah, a
Mhm.
decent
You
length,
need
decent length
life-changing.
too. Yeah, decent length too. I'd say like it's about what you would want from a game that's primarily multiplayer based. Like it's
Long enough to
It-
get you interested, but not burn out.
Yeah, and it also doesn't overstay its welcome, right? Like Titanfall did the same thing. It's like every mission was really well made, and then as soon as they ran out of ideas, they end it right where they need to end it. And
Yeah,
I
take
feel
the
like this
Mario
was-
design. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, as
That's
soon
how
as you run
COD
out of
used to
good
be.
ideas, as soon as you run out of good ideas, just stop there. You know, you don't want to stretch it out for too long, Ubisoft. So like, just end it exactly when it needs to end. And I
what?
think
I
it
think you
did
just
that
perfectly
perfectly.
described the Gotham Knights
Oh.
with the looter systems.
And I haven't even played the game. I'm so good at this. So
He's a
good at
prophet.
this. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. The multiplayer beta was fun, and I'm looking forward to the full thing.
Give me Ground War right now. I want to play it.
Dude, Ground War was a freaking blast. It was a lot of fun.
Best
So yeah.
part of the last one, for sure.
All right. Well, I've been playing more Resident Evil. A lot of Resident Evil 2, to the point where I finally finished it. Finished,
Oh,
and
wow.
then I finished one playthrough. I'm in midway through Claire's, which is my second run, and then there's a true ending once you get all the way through, from what I understand. So then I'll have properly beaten it. But as of right now, I've beaten Leon's story, and I get it now. I get why people like Resident Evil. I didn't get it before. I get it now. It's a good game, very good. The loot crafting situation, it has ported perfectly fine from PS1 to modern day, with the limitation of you gotta accept you're gonna run out of spots in your inventory and make hard decisions about what needs to go and what needs to stay. And if you want to
That's the
carry all
hard.
6 keys on your person at once, why do you need all 6? What did you do that put yourself in this situation? Maybe don't let yourself get to that situation.
I have this weird feeling like I'm getting called out right now.
No, I'm calling out something I did earlier in that I was
Oh.
playing Claire's playthrough, and for some reason I just didn't explore anything. I was just like, oh, well, I know what I'm doing, so I'll just go to the places. But I forgot I need keys to get through the doors that I need to go through, and that I don't have them on her because she's my second character. I haven't picked the keys up yet. So I just kind of had all the keys in my inventory all the time, and I had like 6 less slots than otherwise. To the point where I had a cool gun that I just put in my box so I could carry more keys.
Oh,
So you could just walk around to use the keys. Which, you know, on the second playthrough, it's fine, because they give you a bunch of bullets at the start and a fancy gun, so you're likely going to be fine. It's less stressful than the first one, just because you know more about the area. It's not dropping as many things on you generally. And when they drop a big monster on you, you're like, well, I've got a 45 caliber pistol instead of a 9mm, and I can just blast it and it'll be dead. And that's a good feeling in Resident Evil. Your second playthrough, you don't get the scare factor. You just get to be, now I'm the monster with a big gun.
Yes.
And that's very, very entertaining. Mr. X, really cool enemy. I like Mr. X. He's a thing that I don't know if you've gotten to where you see him, Wyatt.
Nope.
You should at least get that far. It's very good.
I would also recommend getting the mod that does the X gonna give it to you song every time he bursts through the
replace
wall.
the Tyrant theme with X can give it
I've
to
seen
you.
mods where they replace his character model with Pennywise, which is pretty fun.
And I will say,
Of course.
what I did not expect from Resident Evil 2, so I don't know much about Resident Evil before I went into this. I had kept hearing it's a Japanese horror franchise that's very good. That was my extent of knowledge. And considering I tend to like Japanese games, I was surprised I hadn't played it. It's really the only big one I haven't played, any of them. So I played some of 7 when that came out way back, and was like, this is too scary for me, because I was like, you know, I'm not a horror game person. And so I was like, I don't want to play this. I'm going to put it away and not play it. Now I understand. It's not actually that scary. You just have to run away and not get hit by things. That's really it.
That's
That's what the game is about. It's stressful, not scary. And you can handle it correctly. 2, there's a point in 2 where it goes from a horror game to a proper action adventure. And man, it's good, because you hit a point after in the late part of the game where you've been scrounging for ammunition, you had very few resources, and then you get a flamethrower, and they hand you like 2 fuel tanks and tell you to go, hey, these enemies are weak to fire. So you start rolling around, burning enemies to a crisp, and that feels really good until you realize now you've wasted all your ammo and don't have any left and need to go find more, and then the loop starts again, and it feels very good. The ending section of Resident Evil 2 in Leon's playthrough, great. And the story picks up a ton, and you have a lot going on all at once. And you start to tie together all the mysteries that you didn't know. And then I start Claire's playthrough. In Claire's playthrough, I didn't know what to expect with this. I kind of suspected that they would be pretty similar campaigns. They're similar in location, but not in story. Doing completely different things with completely different goals. That's what I was worried about, is that we get like cutscene copies with the characters just swapped. I'm glad we don't, because it actually links together to form a better story with them having their own things. And Claire's got an entire other character to deal with. She's got a little kid that she's got to like find and protect. So yeah, wild, very strange, very different. You go to different areas in different orders and whatnot. You see new places, so it's been very fun going through on a second playthrough. And you're also very quick on a second playthrough, because you know where everything is for the most part, and you can get around the police station very fast when you know what it is. So when I see Mr. X coming at me now, I'm just like, oh, I'm just gonna go the other way, and then I'll see you in 20 minutes, Mr. X.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Just walk away and run around the corner. Or maybe throw some acid in his face if I'm feeling spicy. You know, get him to slow down a little bit.
Gotta make room for those keys in your inventory. Get rid of that acid.
Look,
Throw
it's
it at
great
him.
because Claire has entirely different weapons. She's got a whole different
Yes.
set of weapons. They don't use the same thing. She gets a submachine gun and a grenade launcher. And the grenade launcher can shoot acid that dismembers all the zombies. And it's very fun because they give you a lot more ammo for it than you need. Because one shot with the acid launcher basically takes any zombie out of commission permanently, because you've melted their legs and now they can't get to you. So that's a good time. It's a very fun second playthrough. Yeah, Yeah, it's just been a fun game to experience and play through and get the story now. I understand why people like these characters now, because that tends to be the horror game thing with a lot of Western horror games, is they don't really have characters. It's almost more about concepts of what's going on than any actual character arc. Whereas here I'm like, okay, I see we're building to something. We're building to a finale with these characters as the focus rather than some greater story. And then that's probably going to tie into 4, which people have told me is the best horror action game of all time. I want to play it now, so I'm going to have to go through and play the rest.
I really enjoy that tiny asshole of the Napoleon child.
I don't know who you're talking about.
He will be in the new one too. He will be in the new one too.
All right.
What?
Well,
he's a real character. He's a real character. A tiny little Napoleon child who's like immortal or something, and he looks like Napoleon, and he's small.
This is nonsense.
And Leon fights him. He has a little Napoleon child Gundam that walks into you, and you have to fight it. I'm not joking or exaggerating. Resident Evil 4 is a trip. It is insanity.
Hey, if I manage to beat 3 before 4 comes out, I will play the original before the remake comes out. I do own it, so I've got it ready to go. This is also making me excited to play Revelations, which, from what I hear, is the more action-y spin-off series of like 2 games that is like almost not quite a horde shooter, but more of a proper like action game than a horror game. So it's fun because I think I've realized they limit the amount of times you shoot a gun in this game, so every time you do it, it feels really good. That's like a key concept here, because that rocket launcher or grenade launcher, you're only going to shoot maybe a couple dozen times over the entire campaign. Man, it feels good every time. You look forward to it. You're like, oh, this is going to be good. And you've got ammo types, and you can use the acid or the fire.
I'm going to treat myself. Great. I'm going to shoot a rocket launcher.
I'm going to treat myself and pull out the grenade launcher. Actually, I've been using the grenade launcher more than my pistol, because the grenade launcher ammo is easier to come by. So... is all you need to do is you slap some white gunpowder on some white gunpowder, or not white gunpowder, you use white gunpowder on regular gunpowder, and then you get acid. So, because logically, white gunpowder and gunpowder make acid.
Everyone,
so,
that's
we all learned that that's like the first thing you learn in
chemistry. Yeah, it's very fun. Good game. I'm behind the times on it, but it's been a great time.
Brett.
Hello.
If I was to talk about if I wanted to talk about baby paste, do you think you would be better suited for that, or
we
me?
can both talk about baby? Okay. You haven't finished baby paste.
Okay. I have not finished baby paste.
Scorn?
Well, we can both talk about Scorn, baby, but yes, this is Scorn.
From melting zombies to baby paste now. Brett,
you've gotten to the baby paste though.
They're talking about Coco Melon, the video game.
That's truly the darkest Coco Melon.
I got right to it, and I had to stop right there for a bit. I have not picked it up in a couple of days since.
You have to do it like 3 more times.
I understand what baby paste is, I think, from what you've stated, and I'm just curious to get to the point where that is necessary.
You have to do it like 3 or 4 times in a row. Oh. It's like right. You're close to the end. Oh. I will say that you're close to the end, Alex.
Oh, that went
fast.
I Scorn. It is only short. Like around 5-6 hours. 4, I think.
I might finish RE2 and then play Scorn. It seems like a good Halloween time.
Have you been liking it though?
It's as far as I have to be in a certain mood to play it, and it keeps doing that thing where each time I open up the game again, it resets my settings to where it puts motion blur back on.
Oh, so that's a rough one.
I've had to be finicky with that. I'm just like, oh, oops, gonna vomit. Be right back. Settings. I think it. I don't know if it suffers from pacing issues to me, or if I'm not entirely sure what to expect in it in some parts. I do think visually, not with the story that it's trying to tell, but visually, it absolutely hits home as something that is so viscerally uncomfortable in a really entertaining way.
This to me
with-
feels like it's hitting where, do you guys remember that game that was on a big advertising binge a couple years back that's now banned on basically every video platform?
I
think it was
know.
Agony.
Agony. Yep.
Oh,
Agony
don't
and then
think I
Succubus, which they
That's
made
like
secondarily.
the shitty version of Scorn.
I know,
Yes.
that's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
I've never played Agony. I played the demo for Succubus and then wish I hadn't.
what is it?
It's a first-person shooter. Imagine Metal Hellsinger, but without the music, and you're playing a sexy demon lady who eats babies to heal.
Oh,
It's just kind of
Like-
is excessive
No, that's
to the
not-
point
that's not
of
Agony.
being. It's excessive to the point of being a little too much.
that
Yeah.
sounds like pointless gore. Scorn, I don't think anything it does is pointless. I think some of the things that it
Yeah.
has done have absolutely been lost on me. I haven't gotten some of the points, but you definitely understand the feeling of the game the second you boot into it. It's oh boy. Always whenever I always like to be able to see parts of my character when I look down or around in a first person game. I don't anymore.
You see too much.
I miss my skin. I miss my skin, Ryan. Where's my skin?
You don't get it back.
Not getting the skin
It's
anymore,
gone.
Alex. Look forward to it.
Alex has got no skin
Um,
in the game anymore.
It's such a treat when it comes to body horror though. That's what
Ugh. I like that
think-
you called it a treat.
I still think-
oh god.
It's a real
baby
tasty body
baby
horror.
paste is so baby paste is uncomfortable, but I think like as far as what Brett and I have talked about so far,
that have
we
a
had
good taste
really
too?
we had really differing experiences on the very first puzzle of the game.
Yes. There's multiple
Um,
ways to solve the different puzzles.
Oh,
Yeah.
love
I will
that.
say there's only one ending, so it's just kind of like a gameplay experience thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, you basically just choose between life or death for Walnut Boy, and the option you
Walnut
think
Boy!
will kill him will save him, but kind of condemn him to a worse fate, and the
Yeah.
option you think will save him brutally murders him.
I didn't pick the ice cream scoop. I
Yes.
instead went for the circular saw.
What?
What's happening?
We're keeping this motif up, Alex. We're not dropping it because it's too much fun. And Ryan and maybe also Wyatt, you will understand exactly what we're talking about when you go to play the game.
Mm.
But that multiple like solutions thing, it's a really interesting way to counteract, or at least try to counteract, how like obtuse the puzzles are. At least I think so, because I think there's no shame in feeling like stupid for not being able to solve the puzzles immediately or whatever in Scorn, because they're weird. They're so
I
crazy
was-
weird.
One of the things was with in the first puzzle, I got up to the second floor. I could not tell what was interactable, what I was supposed to be looking at
Yeah.
on the wall. I went up and down like
There's a
maybe
lot.
2 more times before I realized, oh, I can move those.
Yes, you can move
Yeah, I
the
feel
walnuts
like
to
that would
extract
drive me
Walnut
in-
Boy.
That would drive me insane. Not that that's like really a negative against the game. It's just that's my own like impatience getting in the way more so than anything else.
It's normally I would agree, because I hate it's like that old school point and click thing where it's like I don't know what's interactable, so I'm just going to be mashing
Mhm.
the left click on the whole entire
Yeah.
background until I get the one single like pixel that's like the interactable object.
And then
But
you need to learn that you put an octopus in a toilet.
Yes. But in Scorn, I think that almost works for its benefit, because the environments are so well crafted from a visual and a game design perspective that it's just like this looks like it's interactable. It's just a weird statue, okay, but I checked it because it has like a glowing light on it. It's like standing up out
Yeah.
of nowhere. It's nothing, okay, whatever. But then something else that looks like it could be interactable is you realize after looking at it, a like unbroken version of that first thing. Like the first thing you came across was like a statue that was incomplete or like broken or something, and then you find like a fuller version in the next room or something that's like a completed unbroken version of it. It's I don't know, with how like horrifically beautiful everything looks. It's it feels like a treat to kind of be forced to just look everywhere to find something. But that doesn't mean there aren't times where it's still like I have no idea what to do. Do I need to destroy all the floating goo balls with the punch gun, or did I miss a very suggestively shaped statue that I need to shove my punch gun into, or I don't know.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of imagery.
Well, because it's H.R. Giger, man.
Yeah, it is.
He's just
It's
vegan.
this is everything, like almost every part, with the exception of so far one in between area it's the every frame a painting bit, but an H.R. Geiger wet dream.
Yes,
And I'll,
I took that like one
You-
section of the medium from super early on where you could see the big flesh hallway.
Yes,
Nice.
that's because that game is Zizlo Basinski, that I'm not pronouncing his name correctly at all because it's Polish, and damn you Poland for just mashing every K on the keyboard for every person's name.
too many
Just
consonants. I'm sorry.
Slap the keyboard.
Yeah, the Scorn is very H.R. Giger, which I mean, Wyatt, you're an Alien fan. I mean, you gotta
You're
at least give it a look.
You're going
Ugh.
to really, if you're an alien fan, you're going to really enjoy a certain part where you also get a little handy helper.
I'm gonna
Yes.
push. I'm gonna push back on you a tiny bit, just because creature design is like Aliens creature design fantastic. I don't know if I want to spend an entire game, and I understand it's not that long.
Inside
But
the
I've
esophagus of
said
an
this
alien.
before. I've said this before, but I don't know if I want to spend an entire game in that environment. I think it's incredibly impressive, and I think it looks amazing for what it's going for. Personally, I don't want to spend that much time in there because I just feel like it's just. Ugh.
It is
I don't
very
know.
overwhelming.
Brett, with the green floating balls, did you destroy all of them immediately?
No, I popped the ones that I had to get past them. I didn't pop all of them.
The first two hallways that we had to do that in, I popped all of them. Just like, is this health? I haven't gotten hit by anything, and then I was just like, I'm full. I don't think I need it. And then I walked through one of them. I'm just like, oh, this is very
Yeah.
painful steam and or acid.
Yeah, you got farted on by the green goo ball. you little boy, you.
Oh my god!
I got
What are you
farted
talking
on by
about?
the green goo ball.
The episode. That's
And all
it.
I got was this T-shirt.
Was this smelly ass T-shirt.
And all I got was this proboscis gun.
God. Well, I'm curious to hear what you think about the ending, Alex, because that is it's all I will say is very very profound, and I had to go through it twice to make sure that I didn't miss anything
Oh.
because I was so profoundified by it the
There are
first
multiple
time.
endings.
I think I'm gonna
No,
play
there's-
some
there's
more
only
of this.
one.
I think I'm gonna play some more of this tonight after the podcast.
You very well might
it's
finish it.
moving up my list now.
I think it's very good. It's does it warrant the 68 or something it has from critics? I don't think so, but I don't know. People don't like puzzles.
Just
that are
like
too hard to
Gotham
get.
Knights.
You heard it here first. Scorn is exactly like Gotham Knights.
Same
in
game.
every-
Just
it's-
like it.
Yeah.
Just
You know
like
what? You
I
want to see the
love-
best Nightwing story you've ever seen? Go play Scorn.
My favorite costume in Gotham Knights is the one where you just take off all of Robin's skin.
it. Yes, and you
Really the
replace
best
it with
costume.
worms.
And you spend the entire game inside of Clayface.
God,
Clayface is your mount. of the game.
get me out. I don't like it anymore.
Oof, the terror zone. Not a fun spot to be. Ooh. Oh boy.
So that's baby paste.
It's baby face.
It's all baby paste.
Baby paste all the way down.
Right.
Oh god.
Well,
Copy
you got
baby
something, Brett?
paste.
Yes,
Take us away from baby paste?
We'll go away from baby paste.
Please?
And
Maybe some
we'll
adult
go
paste or
to
something?
Oh no, that's worse. That's so much
No,
worse.
that's
No.
far worse.
That is so much
No,
worse.
no paste. No paste in this game.
Dicks on the paste zone.
I don't think there's any paste. There's no paste in Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, which I just finished the other night. This, it's one of those games where people go, "Poof, you haven't played a hard game till you played Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne." All right, this is, you see, I played this game when I was a kid, and immediately all of my pubic hair grew in because I became a man right after I beat the first boss in Shin Megami Tensei
My voice
Nocturne.
dropped about 10 octaves.
And my conclusion is that it's not that hard. there's like 2 or 3 parts
I think
where
people
it's
just
like,
forget that random encounters are a thing in older games
I
and get really
think-
angry when they happen.
my assumption is that because this is not my first SMT game, this was the first mainline SMT game to come out in the West officially. And even then, it did a lot of things that were new for the series. Like the press turn that I've talked about before is the first one that's in like 3D for walking around and
Mhm.
stuff. A lot of firsts. So things like the infamous Matador boss, who immediately the first thing he does is put his evasion all the way to maximum so that you cannot hit
Oh.
him. It forces you to use your brain and learn all those gosh darn buffing spells and debuffing spells that you don't pay attention to in like any other game otherwise. Once you learn that, the rest of the game is like as regularly demanding as any other game. You just have to remember to use your buffs and not be stupid, because any encounter, uh, you can't treat it like Pokemon where it's like, oh, I can, I'll just kill this thing in one shot or run away. This Pokemon doesn't have instant death spells that just the enemy can just cast on your entire party, and there's like a 75% chance that if you are weak to instant death, you will just die in one hit, and you get the game over screen with all the angels, and you go back to the last save. That will always be a problem. So you need to treat every single random encounter like it can do that to you, because it will. The other part that I had a really hard time with was the final boss, because I did the true demon ending, because that's the one that's canon or whatever. So I wanted to see it, and it ended up putting me through most of the content, that like the most content out of any of the endings, so it was worth it. Um uh but yeah, the thing that I got most out of it, and I'm not going to stay on it for too long, because I don't think anyone else here has played it. But the cool thing about mainline SMT, and because this is my first mainline one, is that the endings are pretty sick. It's not just like, oh, like this character gets saved or this like big event doesn't happen. It's
They
literally
go hard.
like they go hard. It's literally like, okay, the world is destroyed and made up again in complete silence, where everyone, instead of being individual life forms, is just one thought entity. And just to take away individuality so that no one is sad again, because the person that thought
What?
about that was really sad. It's pretty crazy, and none of them come out of nowhere. All of them are built up. Like, oh, the person that thought this up was like always shunned, and you never really even pay attention to him as the main character because he's kind of annoying. Um, and like other endings are like, oh, only things that I deem beautiful can survive. So I don't like you, I'm just gonna kill you, and that's like the twist on the only the strongest can survive kind of thing.
It's very
Uh,
Devilman.
Asymmetrical
yes.
face.
Um,
Perish.
and they do this whole thing where Lucifer himself talks you through how, oh, the death and rebirth process of the world is just like a natural thing that happens across all this whole big compressed PS2 PNG of all these different universes with little lights blipping to show the worlds being reborn over and over. However, I'm Lucifer, and I think that's stupid, because I just think that being this, it's out of the control of the people below the almighty will or whatever, and I don't like being controlled. So I'd rather just had that cycle stop. So what you're gonna do you're gonna kill everyone, and that's gonna be it. So I was like, cool, that sounds great. And then you do it, and then you actually do it, and then it ends, and Lucifer's like, okay, good job. You've won in this world, and now it's time to go fight God's army. So you're my number one man. So after this, you're gonna go on and do that, and that's their justification for why the Demi-Fiend, which you play as, shows up in all the other SMT games after, because he's literally traveling to the other universes
that's
to kill
cool.
everyone. It's so awesome. It's so badass, and I totally get it now. And I need to go play some of the older ones, even though they don't have press turn. But I'm
Gotta
now a
finish
true
SMT
gamer.
5. That's
Yeah, same.
a game that I picked up a while back and then just kind of forgot about.
It's just not as interesting as it should be, I think.
I think it's just I got kind of aggravated. The Switch is hitting the point of limitation
that too.
with SMT5 to where it looks great, and then you try to move, and then you think of the Gotham Knights kerfuffle.
And then it's even worse than that, though.
Not a problem in combat, but everywhere else, it's rough.
Yeah. Combat, I'll say, in 5 is, like, incredible, because press turn is the best. But at least, because I don't want to... I mean, I can't spoil 5, because I haven't finished it, and they reveal this to you in, like, the first hour, and when they said it, I was like, what? In, like, the first hour or something, after the world was destroyed and it's the desert place now, which is typical SMT fashion. Okay, this is the formula. I expect this. You go back to the normal city, and it's like, yes, you are in the kingdom of heaven, where everyone's already dead. All your whole life, everyone was already dead, and these are just recreations of their souls or whatever. And it's like, well, don't tell me that, because I don't care, and I have like 60 hours left of possible gameplay. That's why I dropped it, because these people aren't real. I'm not real. It's nothing. The suspension of disbelief from making my brain realize that I'm just playing a video game is gone. It's completely gone. Meanwhile, in SMT3, it's like, okay, everyone's already dead, and there's no fake people. They're just all gone. Figure it out, bud. Have fun. And that's like, okay, I guess I'm figuring it out, and I'm having fun. 5 doesn't have that, so I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. No baby paste, though.
What a shame.
Oh, we were out of the paste zone, and then you brought us back.
We're still out of the paste
Shoved
zone. We're
us
talking
into the
about
paste
SMT.
zone.
Oh, don't.
Paste exclamation point.
Ryan, how do you somehow make it worse every time?
No, I
Never
really
say
think
shove us back into the paste zone. Just
He
don't
will
say
understand.
Brett,
He's been brought into the paste. He will soon experience the paste for himself, and he will understand.
Brett,
And he will be able to
think-
preach the paste as well as the rest of us.
Is it really an exclamation point? I feel like it's more of a paste and then a colon.
Look, Wyatt, I was born in the paste, molded by it. Is it helping?
Extremely painful.
This is it. All right, that's it. Guys, I'm putting in my 2 weeks for this podcast. I can't do this anymore.
Don't even bother. You're good. Don't come into work tomorrow.
We've been wanting you to leave for so long.
Just save yourself. God.
Once I leave this podcast, I will be permanently out of the paste zone forever.
Truly the horror themed
That's
episode.
what you think, Wyatt.
It is. This is the real Halloween episode.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, we didn't dress up at all.
No, that's next week.
It's fine.
Oh,
fine.
That's next week.
perfect.
Oh,
the
the
real
real
Halloween
Halloween
episode is the Game
costumes,
Pass
I
one
forgot.
because we can all play them. Which I'm expecting some truly terrible cosplays. That's the goal. I think
I mean, listen, if my costume from last year is anything to go off of,
he's gonna drag out whatever's in the closet that works. All right.
I
Well,
don't know what's in that closet.
we went through the games. We talked about all the stuff. That means the show is not done, but very close, and that means it's time for shoutouts. Whoa.
I'll go
You
first.
spoke
'cause I
first,
think-
Alex. That means you've nominated yourself.
Yeah, because I think there was a game that I told you to put in the title that I didn't actually end up talking about.
Yeah, we will talk about Sable at another point. For sure.
Eventually.
But Sable is absolutely my shout out for this episode. It is insanely fun, calm, peaceful game that I got my mom interested in.
Me too.
'Cause
Good job.
she's getting more into games now too. But didn't like the combat of Breath of the Wild, so Sable. And also, it's I do still have the what Ryan considers a very hot take of
Yep.
that Sable is a better Breath of the Wild.
I never said that was a hot take because I have been unable to play Sable.
Oh, you said I was just wrong. That's right.
No, I didn't say any of that.
I thought you
Where
said
pulling that from?
I seem to remember there was some sort of altercation the last time.
I think I said that's a lot. Was probably
Okay.
my response. But no, I haven't been able to play Sable because when it first came out, the lack of anti-aliasing on the black fluffles on the ground was
didn't run
it's
very
the
well.
only game that has ever given me a headache before. And not because it wasn't running well, because the black like spots in the sand were shifting every frame, and it was just awful. It was hurting my eyes very badly. I like the game. The rest of it was good. That's it. I'll play it at some point.
I already talked about this when I was talking about the Modern Warfare 2 campaign, but shout out to Infinity Ward just really wanting to be Naughty Dog, I guess. I guess that's where we're at now. And you know what? More people should just straight up rip off Naughty Dog stuff from time to time. It's
More
worth
game
ripping
studios should
off.
just rip each other off in general.
just
Like,
steal
I
intellectual
agree.
property.
I agree. Theft
Especially
is fun,
Japanese.
especially when
Good
it's
artists
good.
like-
borrow, great ones steal.
I would love to see BioWare take the themes of Shin Megami Tensei for a run,
God, that would be kind of horrible, but it would be funny.
especially if it's just Dragon Age, and for some reason at the end you choose whether or not the world explodes into orbs.
You're
Or
like
maybe
a
we'll throw some
post-game.
Tang.
Would you like a post game or a 5-minute cutscene explaining how you screwed up?
Well, we'll find out. My shout out, MechWarrior 5. It's in a good spot now. It's very fun. You get to go around in your big stompy mechs and shoot other big stompy mechs.
Did it used to
Ooh.
not be in a good spot? Or
No, it was in a bad spot. It was rough
Oh.
for a
It
while.
was pretty bad. Like
But it's
thousands of
good now.
dollars for a skin. Bad.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
No,
rough-
MechWarrior
rough from a
5 did
monetary
not have
sense?
that. No, MechWarrior
Which
5
one-
has not,
which-
never had microtransactions.
Was it like a technical issue thing?
Yeah,
or
it
like
ran
Battletech.
terribly.
I'm thinking
Okay.
of BattleTech, I think. Some
Not
other
the game
online mech
Battletech.
game.
You're thinking of probably MechWarrior Online, which is
Maybe.
a different game.
They look the
MechWarrior
exact same.
Yeah, the difference is that MechWarrior 5 is a single-player game where you have a
Okay.
mercenary company and you roam around the world doing mercenary contracts on a galaxy map and drop into randomly generated things and destroy everything in sight with your gigantic missile launchers,
Ooh.
which is great. It's a good time.
Hey, man, whatever happened to Hawken? Did anyone play Hawken back in the day?
And I would love a Hawken too.
What is Hawken? That doesn't
It's
ring a bell.
it was like a free to play like
You
mech.
pilot microwaves with arms and legs, and you fly around and shoot each other. It was actually really cool.
It was-
a
it
very
was-
good game.
Hawken was rad. Rest in
So
peace,
sad it's
Hawken.
gone.
Let's all pour one out for Hawken. with
Yeah,
an
what
input.
happened? Are like the servers not online anymore?
They just cut support and like no one plays it anymore. It's
Yeah,
kind
I
of like a
think it
free to
just
play
kinda died.
microtransaction hell.
Because MechWarrior Online came out, fractured the player base, and was not amazing. So yeah, the status of online mech games is a little bit, iffy.
Makes you want to get crunked.
Now you know how
True.
Aliens fans feel. How
I know.
starved we are. Oh my god.
Yeah, Hawken got removed from Steam a few years back in
Oh
2018.
jeez.
Oh,
Sad.
Lost media.
what a
It's
good
true.
time.
My shout out goes to the new Gundam Witch for Mercury episode came out earlier today, and I watched it earlier today, and it has the most painful looking punch I've ever seen in anything animated. It like literally the
Ooh.
victim of it just goes limp. Like she just falls over and for the rest of that scene does not get back up. I have to show you guys after this is over because I laughed really hard.
Pretty incredible.
It's pretty badass.
Just crumple.
Yeah, pretty much.
Rumpelstiltskin.
I'm Thin Ice Buster. Thin Paste.
Uh,
You say you don't want to hear about Rumpelstiltpaste?
It's too deep.
End this now. End
Too
it.
deep.
End it.
Why
The
did
pace
you do
is
your shout out and
not
I've just blocked it from my memory already, or do you still need to go?
He went
Who
first. I think.
went-
No, Alex
No,
went
Alex
first.
went first.
I
I
went
think
first.
Mine
Ryan
went
said
second. He
anything.
shouted out every people copying Naughty Dog or whatever.
Oh my god, just end it.
Oh my
Just
god.
end it.
Well, you know,
Uh,
Tuesday mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern Time on the podcast platform of your choice. Next week it'll be a Monday because it's a Halloween episode and Halloween's on a Monday, so it's going out a day early. Whoa.
don't forget to treat yourself and get farted on by a green goo ball.
Ah!
Why won't you die?